BASAP Elite. I'm your host, Coach Penn, along with the world's greatest co-host, Professor Haas. Today's guest sustained a 15-year career in the National Football League while literally proving doubters wrong every step of the way. Please allow me to introduce the pride of Battalion, Pennsylvania, Mr. Gus Frerotte. Hey,
Coach
sir.
Penn, how's it going?
Oh, man, I'm wonderful, man. Such a pleasure.
I like your wall behind you.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Which one's your favorite? Which poster?
That would be Miss Judith Brown Clark.
Awesome.
1984 silver medal Olympian, 400-meter hurdles, Michigan State, and all around just incredible woman.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the hurdles. You know, I coached a kid that plays for the Cowboys now that in college or in high school that was a hurdle champion, Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
You know what? I did know he was a hurdler in high school.
I knew he was a sprinter also up there. I saw
all hurdlers are sprinters.
Yeah. He was fast, and I loved just. He would say, "Hey, coach, I'll be a little late for practice. I gotta go work on running." I'm like, "Go ahead, man. Go ahead." You know, because I tell every kid, like, you want to get faster, go run track.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and Rod Woodson, when we had him on, that's one of the things that he said, you know, he how much he loved track. And he actually, while he was playing football, he had actually considered going to the Olympic trials because he had qualified. But he said it was too far gone at that point.
Well, all those DBs that I knew, they all did track work. Like Daryl, when I played with Daryl Green.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy, the blazer.
He would leave practice and go to the track and work out. And I'm like, aren't you tired? He goes, well, no, man, I gotta, you know, that's why I ran a 4.2.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
that was his money.
He used to run on the treadmill at 15 miles an hour and he was jogging. I was like, man, this dude's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. My son, he had watched the video of Daryl Green and I was telling him how fast he was.
Yeah.
And he was like, Dad, he only ran a 4.5. I said, son, he's 50.
Yeah, for sure. I seen one video of him catch someone from behind and they compared that video to DK Metcalf's video tracking down Buda Baker last
with Daryl Green.
Yeah,
no, DK couldn't never. Daryl Green.
We were playing in New England, and Curtis Martin was the running back with New England. Drew Bledsoe was a quarterback, and standing on the sideline watching the defense, right? And D Green, if he's playing right corner, or if you're looking from offense, he's left corner. They run a sweep to the right. Curtis Martin hits it hard, boom, takes off down the sideline. And they probably are on the 25 or 30 coming out, right? And D Green caught him at the 10, had to cross the whole field. I mean, Curtis,
that's the one I'm talking about.
Yes, sir. Crossed the whole field, caught him like the 10, not like tripped him up, like I had to like snag his foot. Caught him like that dude. I've seen him run the 40. He is fast.
Yeah, that's the legendary highlight I was talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, but before we get started, today's show is brought to you by Money for Your Mission. Help secure your grants, government contracts, and fundraising all in one platform. All right, Mr. Frerotte, can you do us a favor introducing yourself to our audience by explaining how you were introduced to football and your career up until you decided to hang up the cleats? I know it's pretty broad, but you know it's pretty.
Well, I don't know how long we have because that's a long way. That's 25 years, right? So, I was introduced as a young kid, 7th grade, going to play youth football. Didn't really like my first time playing. They had me play offensive line because I was a big kid, and got knocked in my butt several times. And you know, my dad was a mill guy. Worked in Fort City, PA, at PPG, and he came from one of 15 kids. You know, and there was just an attitude that you just never quit. And you know, people wondered why a lot of Pittsburgh quarterbacks are so tough, and I think it's because of our family, our tradition, our lineage. You know what I mean? Like all the dudes that came before us,
blue collar black background.
Yeah, they were just tough, man. Like I've seen my dad take a chainsaw across the arm and wrap it with a towel and say, "Okay, we got to finish the job before I go to the hospital."
Oh wow!
like he was like that. Like he was just tough as they come, and you know, you weren't going to be. I mean, I remember got beat up by 2 kids when I was a kid. They stole my bike. he was working in the garden. He goes, I don't have time for this. You go back and get your bike, and you better not come home until you have it. Like, I'm like, well, Dad, they just beat me up and took it. I'm like, he's like, doesn't matter, go get it. And so that's just kind of how dads are, right? Sometimes. And he was just a tough guy. Like, so in 8th grade, I'm playing for our high school, our junior high team, or the elementary, whatever that is. But it was 8th grade. First practice hurt my foot. I said, Dad, I don't know. I got to go to the hospital. My mom's like, we got to take him. And he's like, nope. I just bought you those cleats. You were playing all year.
Oh,
So he said, tie the cleats tighter. And all year my foot hurt. At the end of the year, I said, it still hurt. My mom took me, had an x-ray. I mean, we didn't have any money. So we couldn't pay for that stuff. So took an x-ray. The doctor's like, how long have you had this? I said, from the first practice. He said, well, you've been playing all year with a broken foot.
oh, wow.
And then 9th grade, I go back in 9th grade football. I tackled a guy with my head down in tackling drills and broke my neck.
Oh, wow.
I fractured the 4th vertebrae in my neck. And so I had to wear a neck brace for 9 weeks. Never wanted to play again. My dad's like, get your butt back out there. And so took 9th and 10th grade off, basically. Started playing quarterback. Ended up coming back and playing quarterback in 11th grade. We ran a wing T offense. We didn't throw the ball. I threw the ball probably 40 times my whole high school career.
Oh, wow.
And just was a big kid, 6'5", 201 pounds. Went to what they call here in Pittsburgh, they don't have it anymore. It was called Joe Butler Metro Index Football Camp. And at that camp, where they used to let all the college coaches come to one camp to watch, players from the area and recruit. They don't do, you're not allowed to do that anymore. They don't do it anymore. But that's how I got recognized. I got a lot of letters after that. I mean, I was always a good baseball player, could throw the ball really hard, just had no idea where it was ever going. And then, just got recruited, picked school, ended up choosing Tulsa because of Coach David Rader. Coach Rader came to Pittsburgh twice to visit me. No other coach even came to Pittsburgh to see me. So for me, that solidified why I wanted to go to Tulsa. Plus, they threw the heck out of the ball. And then ended up going to Tulsa and playing there 5 years. Went through ups and downs. TJ Rubley was before me, who was a great Tulsa quarterback. Ended up blowing his knee out against Arkansas. That was the first game I ever played in college at Arkansas. And, there I am, this kid from small town Pennsylvania playing 2A football that ran a wing T, and then all of a sudden I'm coming in and playing against Arkansas. And I remember I just felt like my eyes were like, that big, right? So they were just like, and I think the first play we dropped back, they blitzed 8 guys. Like they brought the safety, all 3 linebackers. Yeah, and I just took a hit and said, okay, I'm ready to go now. Like, sometimes you got to do that and get in the game. And, and so then I just started winging it around, man. And that just kind of was the start of my career. And the next year TJ came back. I punted, actually.
That's what I wanted to bring up. That was a rumor. And I just wanted to make sure I wanted to bring that up about you punting. When that signifying how incredible of an athlete you were.
Well, I loved it. We had a punter, a gentleman who played at Tulsa many, many, many years before you and I, Coach West. So, not Howard Twilley, but I'm trying to think of his name. Oh, it slipped my tongue. He used to come in. I mean, he was like 80 years old. He'd come in and show me punting. But my high school coach taught me how to punt, Harry Beckwith, who was my father-in-law, who passed a year ago. But he showed me how to punt in high school. And we would go out and have punting. He played at New Mexico State and punted there. And so, it's just one of those things that I didn't expect to do it, but the more you can do, the longer you're going to be around.
Oh yeah.
And so just ended up doing all that and just had a lot of fun in college playing. Met my wife after my second year. So after my senior year of football, didn't stay at Tulsa, moved back and lived with my wife in Pittsburgh. And I actually interned with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And so I didn't have a pro day. I didn't have something at Tulsa where I had all my receivers and everybody there. I was working as assistant strength coach at the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I was working out at the Pirates practice facility for all the coaches and the Pitt practice facility when the coaches would come and ask me to throw for them.
Oh,
And
wow.
I didn't have a legitimate receiver. I had some guy that was working with me in the weight room and couldn't catch. So he had no idea what he was doing out there. But I was just winging it and drilling him off his chest. And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all the coaches came in. It was crazy. That was my experience. And it was abnormal.
Mhm.
And then I ended up going to the combine as well.
Okay.
I went there for every day, through to every position. And then luckily enough, the Washington football team drafted me in the 7th round.
Infamous draft. Yes, sir.
And
That 93 draft, correct?
it'd been 94, yeah.
94 draft. That draft was highlighted on NFL Films. I watched it a few months ago, and your name was brought up many times in that NFL film, and especially about that draft and the quarterbacks in that draft. And so I also wanted to bring that up.
Well, those guys, a lot of them came from bigger schools. Heath Schuler was the first pick of excuse me, of Washington. I was a 7th round pick. The first pick is going to get every chance to be the guy.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I went in there just with the mindset of the only thing I can do is work my tail off every day and work super hard. Everybody that goes to the NFL has pretty much the talent to be there. So do you have the mindset? Do you have the work ethic? Do you have all those kind of things? And I didn't care what I was going to do. I was going to, I was on, special team, scout team. I ran the scout team as a quarterback. I played tight end. Like, you just did whatever you had to do because you wanted to make the team. And for me, Heath Schuler held out and didn't come to training camp our rookie year. And so I got all his reps, which was huge for me. And Heath and I, we were the same age, same draft. We weren't close friends, but we weren't enemies either. We were just battling for the same position.
Right.
And the first time he and I ever sat down and really talked about anything was when I invited him on my podcast. And that was the first time we ever really got to chat about our experiences with each other. Besides a paper, the Washington Post, the Times, all these, other people telling us our story. So we finally got to sit down together to tell our stories to each other and listen to each other and find out that we should be friends.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You said quite a bit in there that I really got to pull out for our audience. One, you talked about the work ethic, right? You also talked about the drive, and then earlier you said you punted because you just wanted to do whatever you had to do to get on the field. And I think that there's a lot of athletes out there that say, oh, okay, well, if I can't play this, then I don't want to play, and they'll give up their career, their dreams, just for that. And you showed, hey, if you take this particular approach, there's a lot that you can actually do, because you ended up playing quarterback. You weren't a punter, and that's kind of the same scenario as like Terrell Davis, who started out on special teams, and he gave everything that he had to special teams, and then he finally got his shot. So that's something I just definitely wanted to make sure we brought out so that our guests understand what it takes to make it in the NFL.
Okay. I wanted to piggyback off that too, real quick, Mr. Frerotte.
Yeah.
Before that kind of happened in Washington, and 20 odd years later with RG3 and Kirk Cousins, that same type of thing, with excluding the injury, but how that played out,
Yeah, that's I talked to Kirk about that, and we both kind of had the same mindset. You just go in and work, and you're happy to be there. It's your dream from when you were a kid. And for me, my first quarterback coach was Cam Cameron. Okay. And Cam said, do you know how to hold for kicks? And I said, no, never really did it before. He said, well, I think you should work at it. And I'm like, why would I want to work at that? And he said, same thing, like the more you can do. And for my whole career, I held for kicks. So if we had a punter who couldn't do it, or, I had time, I could work with all these kickers, and they liked this, when a quarterback's holding, you can run fakes, you can do all kind of different things. And so it just goes to show that you should never turn down an opportunity. The only opportunity I ever turned down was going to play overseas when they had the
NFL Europe or something like that.
NFL Europe, and I just got advice from my agent, some other people that says no, don't go over there, because it was. But it all worked out for me. But that was the only time I really ever turned down an opportunity. But other than that, I would try to do everything I could to stay on the team. And then when you get your opportunity to play, you have to make the most of it, because I've seen a lot of guys come out and not be able to shine when it's their time, and then you don't get second chances in the NFL.
Yeah.
Not at all. Well, yeah, so, like I said, you had a pretty lengthy career, longer than the majority of NFL players percentage-wise. And that was valiant in itself, with you being able to sustain and exceed expectations. So I just want to tip my hat to that also. It's a product of your work ethic. And I think everybody should notice that and follow that blueprint to be successful.
Well, thank you. And it wasn't an easy road. I played for 7 teams, and I was married young. We had kids when we were young, and now I've been married for, going on 26 years. Been with my wife for over 30.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and so for me, the most important thing was my family. And even though I wanted to compete and always start, and that's why I moved around so much, I had opportunities to stay and be a backup. And, just things sometimes wouldn't work out. And so but my goal always was to take my family with me wherever whether we rented a house, bought a house, did something, because I knew that I've seen too many guys, when they get done playing, all of a sudden they have a family there and they didn't realize it.
They don't know what to
they've
do.
been doing other things, right?
And
tough. My focus was always on my family and football. Now, we could talk about when you're done and you have to transition into other things and business and all that. I wish I would have focused on a few other things, but that's another story.
Oh, yeah. All right. Since you're getting into post, playing career, when you retired, like I said, you had a very successful career. Whether it was coaching high school football with the extraordinary 42-3 record, to recently becoming a senior advisor for Imagine AR, augmented reality. But what stood out to me the most was your work in the brain wellness sector. What intrigued you to become involved in something so significant?
Well, the gentleman, Clarence Carlos, who owns that company, our sons played together in high school, and I never really met him when I was helping out at Pittsburgh Central Catholic, and I would do some work every now and then. And my wife always was, one of the moms who served dinner or bought hoagies and did all that stuff for the boys.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, "You got to meet Clarence. He's one of the funniest people you ever meet." And we finally had a little tailgate party before one of the games, and I met Clarence, and we basically talked for about 2 hours, and he got me to come into RC21X to see his business, see what they're doing. And even before I got there, I mean, their RC21X is really all the psychological tests that you take. And they took those, they partnered with the University of Texas in Arlington and their Human Performance Center. And they basically wrote new algorithms on how to use those tests, how to wrap it around performance and make it all about the brain. They actually tested about 700 NFL players. So the NFL players would come in and do these tests with the NFL. And the alumni, these guys were all retired. And then they would take the RC21X and they would compare the numbers. And the RC21X, something that you can do on your computer. Now they have what's called the Roberto app, named after Roberto Clemente, and partnered with their family. You can play on your phone, but it's these games that you can play, and it tells you your brain performance so that you can track it and monitor it. And for me, as we know with football, there's a lot of guys that have had concussions. They've had issues. There are people doing studies like Harvard. There are people who don't believe in CTE. There are people who do believe in it. And to me, RC21X was just a tool that you could use that would give you your numbers back to you in an instant and let you understand where you were and if you changed. So a lot of people want to compare their brain performance to somebody else. You just compare it to yourself, and that's what's important, right? Because we're all different. And so your finger tapping may be different than my finger tapping, but if my finger tapping changes in 3 months compared to what it was before, something is wrong.
Yes.
Right. So it gives you a way to monitor and measure your performance. And if you're doing something right, your performance should go up. If something is wrong, then your performance will probably go down, and it just gives you an alert. So what they're doing there is great work, much needed. And everybody is using, there's 8 billion phones in the world. So everybody has one now or something like that. So
Probably double that because most people have like 2.
not me, man. I don't want more than one, and one's even too much. But they're just a great company. So it's rc21x.com. They partnered with the Clemente family. My first guest ever was Roberto Clemente Jr. And just a great guy. And just, his dad's thing was, if you're not trying to make a difference in the world, then you're wasting your time on earth.
Right.
That was like his quote, right? And I always felt like RC21X could make a difference because there's so many people in areas that can't get to a psychologist, can't get to a psychiatrist, can't go see the doctor or understand their own human performance, but they can all get an app on their phone and check themselves and monitor themselves.
Well, I had a few more questions to try to get a better understanding for the Roberto app and also for our audience. So I was wondering, does the app kind of help diagnose early signs of, say, CTE in the professional ball players? And what range of brain illnesses can Roberto detect? Like maybe autism in children, or pre-onset dementia, or what range of it? How broad is the spectrum of diagnosing possible illnesses?
Well, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a diagnostic tool. It's just a tool that's going to measure and monitor things like a thermometer would, right? For your
Gotcha.
brain. So like, it's not going to say like, because your number is this, you have autism, right? It's not going to say because your number is this, you have CTE. It's just going to tell you where you are. So if you would have taken it your whole life from the time you were, 15 years old until now, it would have given you a whole wide range of where your brain performance was, right? So if, let's say you take it after you've eaten well all day, you've exercised and you feel great, right? And then you go out for the weekend and you don't sleep much and you have some alcohol, take it after that, and you're going to see your numbers change, right? It's not really diagnosing anything. It's just saying like, here's your performance level and here's what it is. So it can it's a much needed tool, but it's not going to diagnose. That's like another tool's job.
Okay.
They just wanted to create something that can help you, give you a chance to monitor it. So like if you're in high school, your parents can see your numbers. My son had a major concussion in high school and I had no idea what was going on with him. Right. I'd take him in to get his treatment and everything. And they're always really scientific about everything. And you're trying to understand what's going on, where the Roberto app would have just said, okay, his normal score is 650, but his score right now is 500. Right. So we're going to work until he gets back up to that 650. And so then it gives you an idea of what's going on.
Gotcha. Well, in terms of affordability, is the RC21X program accessible to lower income families?
Yeah, I mean, they're still playing with the price point, but last time I looked, it was $1.99 a month, which isn't much. So
Man.
it's pretty inexpensive. And then one of the things we're obviously working on They've been working with a company called MITRE recently to try and get with MITRE has a lot of government contracts and things like that, and especially for DOD and the military. Now, you think about somebody going into the military, it's probably no different than somebody playing football, right? You're going to go through a lot of work, a lot of trauma, and you're going to go through, and your performance can go up and down or can stay the same. But it would be an easy tool to take, a minute and a half, play a couple games on your phone to understand where you are. And I think that's what's great about the Roberto app, that, all these people can do it. Kids can do it. Anybody can do it. Adults, if you have somebody that maybe you're taking care of, you're their caretaker that's older, right? And you're not able to be with them all the time. They can use the app, they can understand it. And if their numbers change, you can say, hey, what's going on? Because a lot of times our parents don't want to be honest with us. I know I don't want to be honest with my kids all the time if I'm hurting or if I'm having mental problems or if I'm having physical problems, right? I don't want to put those kind of burdens on them. So you don't tell them stuff. But as kids, we do want to know what our parents are doing. We want to know how they're feeling because we love them and we want to take care of them. And so it just gives you an opportunity to share that information with people that are close to you as well.
Well, as a veteran and a former arena football player, this program, this app could be so beneficial to so many people. And I'm just blessed to be able to bring this to the audience, and I'm sure that they'll take full advantage of it because it's definitely, an asset to every community. So
Yeah, no, it is. I think anybody. We've had kids that obviously have ADHD, and their parents are trying to figure out their medication. There's so many medications for these kids out there. And so the one mom had her son playing RC21X. RC21X is a lot bigger and more robust version of Roberto. You can't play all the same games on your phone as you can on your computer. And so the kid had his score already, right? And then his mom took him off his medication and his numbers dropped way down, like way, way down. And then she put him back on his medication. His numbers went back up to where they were supposed to be. And so we realized that, that medication was helping him be normal in school and being a better student, being a better person. Because before in ADHD, they kicked him out of school, not because he was a bad kid. He just couldn't control himself, right? He couldn't sit still and he had all these problems. So a lot of teachers don't know how to handle that stuff. And so the mom tried to even homeschool, and then she realized he has it's not really something that he's wrong, that he's doing. He just can't control it. Then once they got him on the medication, he went back to school and became a 4.0 student, right? Because of that little thing. And our app we just want to help people understand where they are so that you can either get better or worse, but you have a number in front of you. And that's, it's like me stepping on the scale. I hate that number, but you get on and check it out and hopefully it goes down, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's really where the rubber meets the road, right? Because I think about those different things, and when you talked about kids being on medication or anybody being on medication for that matter, seeing where they, getting their baseline, right? And then also seeing where they are on the medication, off the medication. And that can give you some really important information, whether to continue to take the medication or stop it. So that's good stuff.
Yeah. And we talk about, just think about food, if you eat healthy. Now, I'm not one to talk because I don't always eat healthy, but, but if you do eat healthy, you feel so much better. And then you go eat a burger and fries and you're like, man, I just feel like I've got to take a nap, right?
Oh, yeah.
Your performance levels have gone down. And so It's kind of the same thing. Like if you're not eating well, if you're in an area where you don't get great food, maybe it's a food desert, they don't have great food and a lot of it's fast food or they're eating junk food all the time, kids. Right. It can affect everything they do in life. And so if they understand that, man, if I just make a little choice of, eating an apple instead of a bag of chips, maybe it can help my performance and I'll be a better person.
Definitely.
That's good stuff.
So
and that's also a nugget that we have to pull out because the thing is
Go ahead, Professor.
is that everything, all the little things that we do, right? Whether it's getting enough sleep, whether it's eating the right food, whether it's making sure that you're drinking enough water, the watching too much TV, not going outside enough. All of those things actually help to make the whole person, if you will. And so that's, I think that the conversation that we're having is really pointing that out. And it seems as if this Roberto app that you're talking about will actually help to determine, hey, okay, well, you're on the right path, or you've done things to help you to perform higher, so therefore you're seeing it in the results. And so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think too is that you talked about all these things, and you talk about the way people meditate or pray or whatever, and that's such a vital part. Like, they might not be a part of a church, but they may meditate. They may not meditate, but they may be a part of a church and they take time to pray every night. But you're just going inside and you're taking some deep breaths, and maybe you're just saying thank you. And that little thing can really help you control your temper, your mood, all of that stuff. And we know that just from all the scientists who help us in all these different areas of the brain.
Okay, definitely. So this question is very near and dear to my heart. As an ex-football player and everything that it took to be successful, how did the values that took a 7th round draft pick to sustain a 15-year career prepare you for life after football?
Well, that's a good question, because some of my biggest goals always were to be a good father, be a good husband, be a good person in my family, and then always to try to be the best in football. Now, you look back and, hindsight's always 20/20, and I would love to change some things, but I don't have any regrets about what happened to me. I mean, I've had some things happen in my career that nobody would want to happen in their career. I've been on the cover of the Washington Post and ESPN, the magazine, all that, for good and bad reasons. And I've faced a lot of adversity in my life, from injuries to kind of almost embarrassment and things like that have happened in my life. And the thing I would say is that you just kind of stick to it. You got to have a good sense of humor in life. There's a lot of people that'll say things to you to get you geared up or, make you upset. And I think the best thing to do is just work. Like, for me, when I would feel bad about myself, or like somebody's been talking about me, you read things in the paper, the best medicine for me was going back out on the practice field and throwing a football.
That's right.
And going out there, or going to lift weights, or being with my friends in the locker room, or somebody I could just shoot the breeze with, right? Those were the things, like a good hard football practice, or getting a good sweat on, or those were the things that got me through. Now, preparing me for the second part of my life has not been easy. That transition, like I was telling you earlier in the show, I wish I would have went back and got my master's, would have went back and studied and continued my education. So if I had anything to tell somebody, was to, continue education. I didn't know what I was going to do when I was done, and I found business and an entrepreneurial spirit. And I really like it. I like doing those things. I like thinking and making and challenging myself. I've done a multitude of things. My wife calls them hobbies sometimes, because I don't always get paid, but it's okay. I'm just enjoying this part of it, and just trying to be a good dad, a good husband, and just keep on rolling. I'm going to turn 50 this year, so I'm hitting a new milestone.
Yes, sir. There's something about those Tulsa guys, man. It seems like they're all elite businessmen.
I wish that was the case. We do have a good Tulsa football player that was I don't know if you remember Shane Goodwin.
Okay.
Shane Goodwin played with us. He was an offensive lineman and a nose tackle. He was from Canada, and Shane played with us. He worked for Morgan Stanley forever. Now he is the head of the business school at SMU. So you definitely should look Shane up. He is an unbelievable, awesome person, and he would be a great conversation for you guys because he is just top notch, and he loves Tulsa football.
It's crazy because I guess you said he was from Canada, because I know when I was there was another football player. He was a D lineman, Nelly, that was from Canada as well. So I guess Dave Rader, man, that dude was a expert recruiter. I really good guy. Got to Dave Rader and I served on the Big Brothers Big Sisters board together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then of course I was there at the end of his tenure as the head coach. But yeah, it's the places like when because I'm thinking Nelly was the only guy from Canada, and then here you are bringing someone else up, and then you were telling about the people that went to TU that are from Pennsylvania.
So many from Pennsylvania, from Canada, from Philadelphia, from DC. They're just all around, and Coach always did a good job of, because Tulsa, if you think about the big schools, Texas, Oklahoma, OSU is bigger, Arkansas. We weren't pulling the top guys out of all these areas. Those top guys would go to those big schools.
Right.
But there were so many guys that played. So Coach was always going out and finding, we had so many guys coming from not community college, but, what's the school called before you, like 2-year school? Yeah. So they would come from all over. Guys, I knew guys from all over the country, which was great. And Coach Rader recruited people from everywhere. And I think that's what makes it unique. And I thought that's what made Coach Rader great, was that he was able to take all these guys from different backgrounds and communities and pull them together as one.
Absolutely.
What I picked up from our interview so far is the irony of you starting with the Pittsburgh Pirates and ending up working with the Roberto Clemente program. I think that was pretty cool, man. The irony of it.
Oh, yeah. I really never thought of it that way, but as my dad's favorite player, I mean, he would fall asleep so many times listening to the Pirates. I've been a Pirates fan forever. Has been great years lately, but and then this opportunity, I don't even remember how the opportunity came about, because we didn't have, back then in 93, we didn't have like the internet and all the stuff that you could go search all this stuff. You had to call, you had to write a letter.
I tell my kids that, and it blows their mind.
And I had to fill out, I remember I had to fill out an application, send it in the Pirates. They send a piece of mail back, says you're accepted. And so I was just so excited to be part of the Pirates organization that, I didn't know if I would get drafted at that point. I didn't know where my career was going to go, but it gave me an opportunity to come home. It gave me an opportunity to be with the person I loved. Mm-hmm. And it gave me an opportunity to be with an organization that, hey, if I was going to be with an organization, I would love to have been with the Pirates my whole career. I would have loved to be a player, but that wasn't in the cards for me.
That, I would say 95% of all of our interviews mention the love for baseball.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And we have to point that out. It's been a lack of participation, especially in inner cities. And I would like for us to do our part, ASAP Elite, to revive that and bring that back to the inner cities and bring it back to prominence as it once was. Just a little something, one of my thoughts.
Well, yeah, I think that's right. I just interviewed on my podcast Bob Kendrick. Mm-hmm. Bob Kendrick is the president of the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City. Okay. And we had a great conversation, and we talked a little bit about that there were just some amazing people that came in baseball and played and did so many incredible things that created this fandom of baseball, right? Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, you name it, and then you go back and he started talking about the history of the Negro Leagues and especially in Pittsburgh, with the Homestead Grays, Pittsburgh Crawfords, mm-hmm. all these teams and all these people that played and what they had to deal with for the love of the game. And then the fans, he talked about, how like so many things were invented. Night baseball was invented by the Negro Leagues. All these things that were invented, you know, that they just created because they just played because they loved the game. They didn't have these managers telling them what to do, and it wasn't big money. They were doing it because they loved it, and they had to deal with all these other issues, and they were going through Jim Crow and all these other parts. And I think that I look at baseball, and that's the one sport that I wish would do a better job. I mean, I know that they do. They try to build like the Pirates. They try to build, you know, ballparks and things like that. But I just don't think they're doing enough like basketball, football to try and bring kids from all backgrounds in to want to play the sport, because it seems to me that not as many kids are playing the sport, and they want you to be a year-round athlete for just baseball.
Yeah, no.
Like if I just had to play baseball growing up, I would have been bored out of my mind, and I would never want to play. But because I just played in the spring and maybe some in the summer, I was excited to play other sports and then get back to baseball and play it again.
Yes, sir.
But my dad loved it too, and we were in the backyard. I mean, I remember I had an old mitt and ball. I mean, it was covers coming off, but we threw that thing all the time. And that's just how I got my arm strong, because my dad would just play catch with me all the time. And I think that's part of it too. You know, you talked earlier about kids not getting outside, not going out to, you know, a lot of things are technology wise. They're on their phones, they're in their house, they're playing video games. They, you know, I don't go past the basketball courts and see the games like when we were kids.
Right.
That's all we did in the summer.
Absolutely.
Right. Turn the lights
Walk
on.
to the
Let's
rec.
go play 8 hours straight. Like we were there all day. I don't even,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even run up and down the court now. I'm like, how did I do that back then?
Yes, sir.
So I think that, you know, when you talk about that, and I'd love to see that, because they just were talking about that on ESPN about how, you know, baseball needs to do a better job. And if you love baseball, about getting it to everyone, inner city, you know, getting it to kids who don't have the financial stability, because if your parents got to drive you everywhere and it's all scheduled and it costs an arm and a leg to go work with a coach, and that's the only way you're going to be successful, it's never going to happen, right?
Right.
We're missing so much talent and so many incredible people playing these sports because they've put such a price on it all. And I'd just love to see, I mean, I grew up playing because we just rode our bikes to the ballpark. One bike was first base, one bike was second base, one bike was third base. And we didn't even have 9 guys to play, right? We would just, whatever. We had 6 guys, there's 3-on-3, and we had home run derby, and we just play. And we learned how to swing on our own.
Hey, the home run derby was one of the funnest, one of the best times you can have as a kid. The home run derby? Are you kidding?
Oh yeah. And we played wiffle ball. You know, it didn't matter, man. Whatever ball somebody brought to the park or to wherever, that's what we were playing.
It can be kickball.
I think that we're missing definitely kickball.
Oh yeah, we love kickball. That needs to be a professional sport. But
It does. Well, dodgeball, you know, we used to play dodgeball all the time, and everybody hated playing against me, but I loved it.
I bet.
They said Gus isn't allowed to throw any balls that are harder than a sponge. So.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Now, one thing I wanted to talk to you, I just wanted you to hit on real quickly, because we talk a lot about, you know, teamwork and being a good teammate. And in our interview with Rod Woodson, he talked about playing for the name on the front of the jersey and not the name in the back of the jersey. And for someone who has played for so many NFL teams, like when you hear that we're being a good teammate, teamwork, what does that mean to you, and how has that affected your career?
Well, it's really hard, because when you go to a new team, right, there you think about how many personalities and things are, you know, backgrounds are in that locker room. And how do I get to know all of them? How do I become a good teammate? And we all have different skill sets. Sometimes we're the guy that likes to talk. Sometimes we're the guy that likes to listen. Sometimes we're just the guy, I just want to put my nose down and work hard and don't bother me, right? So you have all these different personalities. And my thing always was go in that locker room, find out about somebody, And I was always a prankster. I love playing jokes on people. And because it just did what it did to you there, it made you laugh. And I think sometimes laughter is the best medicine.
Oh yeah.
And my favorite teams that I've ever played on, the best teams that I've played on, was because we had an incredible locker room. And it wasn't because we had incredible talent. We had incredible trust. We had incredible friendship. And guys love to work hard. I'll give you one example. When I was playing for the Miami Dolphins in 2005, we had incredible talent on that team. Junior Seau, Jason Taylor, Zach Thomas, Chris Chambers, I had Ronnie Brown, Ricky Williams, Randy was my tight end, Randy McMichael was my tight end. We had an incredible team. And Coach Saban was our head coach. And this isn't to brag on Coach Saban or anything, but he had 8 of us be captains, right? Not with the C on you, but just the guys who and I was one of those guys. So we had our first 2-a-day practice, and Coach Saban calls us in his office, all the leaders, right? And obviously for us, Junior Seau was always our leader.
Oh yeah.
Right. No matter what, like, you just have respect for certain guys because they played, they've been there, they've done it. And we all went in there and he said, so what do you guys think? Like, cause this was his first year in the NFL coaching, and being the head coach and all this. And we all said, look, coach, we will work as hard as anybody. We do not care. And we only have one request. We just want to take our helmets off when we stretch. That's it. Right. And he said, okay. So we left. We got to practice number 2, and we're all watching Junior Seau. And we're doing our stretch lines, defense on one side, offense on the other. And we always did this dynamic warm up, like, where you go back and forth across the field, then you'd sit and you'd do all your static stretches. And so we're all watching Junior. Junior takes his helmet off, puts it down beside, and Coach Saban goes ballistic, yelling at everybody and said, I didn't approve of this. You can't take your helmets on. Put your helmet. And right there, he lost our team.
He lost the team. Yep.
Because Junior Seau and him fought every day. And Junior Seau, I think, lost some respect for him that day. And we all know that Coach Saban's a great coach, what he's done at Alabama and all that. But I just looked at that like, you're going to let that little thing.
Right.
And instead of saying, man, making a joke about it and then talking to us in private and say, guys, that doesn't sit well. But no, he had to say, I'm going to run this team and I'm going to control it. Well, you know what? You got guys who played 15 years in the league and are making a ton of money that are men. You're not going to control them. You got to be able to work with their personalities and profiles. So I think to be a teammate, to be a leader, you got to understand everyone. You got to get to know them all. You got to be able to make them laugh. And then they got to see that they can trust you, right? Be on time. Make sure you do your workouts, right? Get in the weight room, do everything everybody else is doing. And I don't care who you are, you can't be a prima donna because guys sniff that out in a heartbeat, right? You got, even if you are that guy that's made 10 Pro Bowls and you've won a Super Bowl, do you think Tom Brady doesn't work as hard as everybody else? All these guys that you see that are great, they go in like everybody else, put their time in. Now they may be pressed for more time because people are asking them to do more things, but they're going to work just as hard and they're going to be there for their teammates. And I think that's what makes people great teammates.
So I would like to add to that. And from the perspective of Coach Saban, being a new NFL coach, one thing about management and new management, you have to learn how to manage, the element or the team that you have. And that's a process there, and that bodes for, whether in the regular workplace, in the military, in so many situations when one has to be a leader, when they have an idea of how they think it should be, and they end up, like you say, losing the team because, they didn't feel the pulse of the team, and get to know the team, and galvanize the team first before you discipline. So,
and I think that situations can be handled individually too.
Oh yeah.
When I was coaching in high school, we only had 28 kids, and obviously we had Ezekiel Elliott, right? He was the best player in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Zeke, I said, look, I'm going to be harder on you than all these guys. So when I yell at you at practice or I get on you because you're not running hard enough, it's not because I don't think you're great. I don't think, I said, because these guys need to believe in you. They
That's
need
right.
to trust you. And if I get on you, I don't have to get on the other 27 guys,
That's
right?
right.
Because they're going to do. So if you're working hard, they're going to work hard
Mhm.
because there are guys that aren't going to pull their weight, right? They're going to have to be struggling because they're in high school and they just flunked a test or they're having problems at home. There's all kind of, they just broke up with their girlfriend or something. You know what I mean?
Or
Kids have
ADHD.
kind of problems, right?
Mhm.
And you don't know what's going on with all of them. So Zeke and I had a kind of an agreement. I said, look, I'm gonna be tough on you. He said, that's all right, coach. I can handle it. You know what I mean? And yeah, he wasn't always like perfect, but I knew that I could trust him and rely on him to help me through all this. And he was a big, not that I was some great coach, but it was just that I showed a lot of love for all those guys. And Zeke was one of those guys that pushed our team to be great.
That's awesome. So, all right. So the question of the day is brought to you by Dapper D and the House of Barbers located in Chandler, Arizona. When you look good, you feel good. How do you feel about the minority hiring process or lack thereof in the NFL? But not only the NFL, but the sports industry overall.
Yeah, I think it's a hard question. I think it's a good question, and because the way I look at it is that everyone should go in as equals, right? No matter what. Like if we all wanted to go and coach the same position, but you had 30 years behind you and you've done this before, and come in for my first time, right? There should be some of that. It shouldn't matter what we look like or what our backgrounds are. It comes from our experience and our opportunities. And sometimes, it's just young and old and people are coming in and different things like that. And I think that the minority process, what they've done with the Rooney Rule, they really tried to handle it, but I think they still haven't done a great job of progressing every year on the Rooney Rule. I actually interviewed an attorney that teaches law and helped write the Rooney Rule. And he's at American University in Washington, D.C. He's an African-American man. He grew up in Africa and he came to America when he was 7 years old. He went to high school in Maryland, and sports helped him in his life because he was a great soccer player. And so he realized that sports was the way to go, but he knew that he wasn't ever going to be professional in it. So he went into being an attorney and a lawyer. But then he also knew that there were people that were disenfranchised, that didn't have the opportunities that other people did, and he wanted to make a difference. And so he helped write the Rooney Rule and try to give everybody equal opportunity. And I think when you look at the hiring process, we see sometimes they interview one person. And I think a lot of times the NFL is still a buddy system, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know.
Yeah.
And that makes it hard because if my really good friend goes and gets a head coaching job, I would hope that he would hire me, right?
Oh, yeah.
But
Definitely.
also I would hope that he would interview everybody else. And if I'm not the right man for the job, because ultimately what happens if you just hire your friends, you're probably going to get fired, right? Because I've seen it too many times, because it's not about friendship when you're at that level. It's about getting the correct people that work with you well, but can also do the job when you're not looking. And you also have to be able to handle different backgrounds, different situations. So if you hire somebody that's just your friend, but never has been with people from different backgrounds and situations, they're not going to be able to coach those people, and they're not going to be able to handle them well.
That's right.
So when you talk about the minority hiring process, I think it just has to be looked at as an equal opportunity. But it's not always equal because they're not getting an opportunity, if you understand what I'm saying. So I just hope that things can keep growing, keep progressing, because we're all the same. We all do the same. We all do the same. And, the way our country has been the last so many years has really hurt me. and I don't like to see it because everyone's my brother, and I love everyone is the same.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, in addition to that, I want to shine light on the Fritz Pollard Alliance that's been doing a lot of great work, to try in the fight of equality in the sports realm for front office positions. We had a high-ranking executive, Larry Lee, on a couple times, just to keep us updated really what's going on, man, and that the work that those guys are doing, man, is uncanny, and unspoken of. It's
Mhm.
the thing. You don't hear about it. You just see things happening. It's very valiant. So,
Well, you don't hear about all the people getting hired to the front office in the
yes, sir.
NFL, right? It's all
Mhm.
about the players, maybe the general manager, and maybe a coach, right? A
Yes, sir.
head coach. But other than that, you don't hear about who's being hired to assistant general manager, who's being hired as all these different, there's a huge staff in every NFL front office
That's true.
and in every college front office, right? And so um, that all needs to be visible, and you need to hear about it to make it equal. And I think that what with Fritz Pollard, that's what they're trying to do, is make it visible. And when you have people like Larry Lee who
Yes,
are
sir.
leading the way, things are
Mhm.
going to change.
That's right.
Well, hey, Mr. Frerotte, this was a wonderful interview.
Absolutely.
Very impactful. Well, man, I really
Oh
thank
man.
you for taking the time out, man, to speak to us today, man. And I would love to have you back on the show one day. Also, I want to shine light on your podcast, In the Huddle with Gus Frerotte, that is really doing great work and enlightening everybody what's going on, in sports and around the world.
Yeah, well, it's called Huddle Up with Gus.
Oh,
It's
I'm
a little
sorry. I
different. Yeah,
apologize.
no, you're good. You're good. There are other podcasts called In the Huddle, but it's called Huddle Up with Gus. People can check me out wherever they listen to their favorite podcast. You can go to my website, huddleupwithgus.com, and check me out. I've done over 100 shows. I've interviewed people from, in baseball to people who have written books about baseball and football and everything else. Um, to movie stars like Matthew McConaughey,
Yes,
who's a
sir.
huge Washington football team fan, but is from Texas and loves Texas football and everything
Yeah.
about Texas. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy being able to bring people on and tell their stories about how sports shaped their life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good deal. Well, like I say, thank you for spending time with us, man. We would love to have you back on later on in the season. Like I say, I really tip my hat. I really appreciate you.
No, I thank both of you and I appreciate you having me on.
Well, Professor Haas, you know, we were able to speak about a range of topics,
That's right. You
that
know,
all tied in together. Go ahead. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Well, the thing that I really liked is that there's a lot of stuff. Like I didn't really have to pull a whole lot out because the way that he spoke about it, it was a nugget all in itself that was easy to grasp and catch on to. And so I really enjoyed that video. Of course, I'm a little biased because TU alum. We, we
Yeah.
we ride together, man.
I had his jersey. I sure did. I had his Redskins jersey, football team jersey.
Is that right?
Yeah, the football team jersey. Yes, sir. I
Yeah.
sure did. I sure did, man. That was like I said, incredible. It really made me feel, you know, reinvigorated. If you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying, just ready, motivated. Everything that he went through. Like I said, the doubt, the overcoming, the battle with Heath Schuler.
Right.
Just being
Well,
that guy.
just taking advantage of the opportunities that are in front of them.
Yes.
Not being upset about what's not there, just
Mhm.
taking what's there and making the most of it.
It just has to be
That's
there.
something we got to do. We
For
got
sure.
everybody. We have to do more of just listen. Whatever is in front of you, whatever cards you were dealt, take advantage of that. Play your hand.
Sure. And also I want to point out the importance of family.
Yeah.
He pointed that out. He said he took his family everywhere with him.
You see the
Us as
difference?
people, we get so tied up, we forget about our families, That's human nature.
Well,
But
do you see the similarities between him and Barry Mentor?
Barry
They
Mentor,
do
yes,
the same
sir.
thing.
I sure did.
Yeah.
I sure did. I sure
Yeah.
did. And
Good stuff.
that just tells you what kind of guy he is,
That's right.
Yeah, and he signifies what achievement, success, and perseverance is all about.
That's right. We talked about this from the beginning when we're talking about, the minority hiring process, racial equity, is that we have to get people who don't look like us actually speaking out on it. And so I really appreciate what Gus had to say, talking about the hiring process and what he sees and what he sees the Fritz Pollard Alliance doing and what he's hoping to see in the future. And that's what more that needs to happen more often, because the thing is of course I'm supposed to say something, but I honestly believe that spotlights should always be shined on something that's wrong. And so we just have to make sure that we work together to get this corrected.
Well, here we go. On behalf of Money for Your Mission, Inc. and Dapper D's Barbershop, we at ASAP Elite thank you for joining us. We're signing off.